Hi.
Hi, Tindy.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, everyone.
We'll give it a few more seconds as people gently drift in.
So lovely to see some of you.
Mm.
Haven't seen for quite a while.
And some children, young people are joining us.
Fabulous.
Oopsie, I made her shy.
Mm.
Okay, welcome everybody. It is so good to see so many names and faces here with us. This is our last online session for the year, and we started doing monthly meditation sessions together to keep the connection of Sangha going. And it's been going incredibly well. And for December, we decided to combine it with the fundraiser to raise funds for Dharmagiri, the longevity of Dharmagiri, so we can keep the space going. And it's a bit dark now, you can't see behind us, but to honor the sacred mountain that we're on and be able to keep giving back to the space and the people of South Africa. And so we're so grateful to all of you for joining us. Beautiful, warm welcome from the sacred mountain, the spirits of the mountain, the waters, the earth, the air, and a warm welcome from our team here on the ground at Dharmagiri, and Kittisaro and Thanissara joining us, our founders. And we're so excited to have this beautiful conversation and moment with you together. It feels like a beautiful way just to also wrap up the year. And for those who don't know me, my name is Pumla Shongwe, and I'm part of the Dharmagiri team. To my left, we have Maya Mari, and if you zoom out, Neil. And we have Neil here as well. He's also our IT expert, and we're so grateful that he's making this happen. And we see a lot of familiar friends and faces and everybody, and we're so excited to be here. So basically, just an overall of the program today is we will start with we'll start with an opening. Maya will do an invocation for us, just to bring all the spirits and our ancestors and our foremothers and our forefathers into the space with us to hold the intention of why we're here and why we continue to do this work, and give us the strength and the blessings to continue forward. From there, we'll go into some chanting led by Kittisaro and Thanissara. And then we'll go into a lovely conversation about practicing on sacred land and what that means for us. And then we'll have a short little body break, and from there we'll introduce Sisonke. He's on the tail end of load shedding, so his video's off right now, but he should get full power back in a minute, and we'll introduce him at the second half, and he will take us through a beautiful sound journey with all these beautiful indigenous instruments from Africa, and he is from the Eastern Cape of Africa. Multi-talented man, that is. He's a healer, a musician, and is a beautiful conduit for spirit. And so at that point, we'll be able to relax, lie down, and just enjoy receiving this beautiful musical healing from him. Right. I'll hand over to Maya.
Thank you, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Good, thank you. Yeah, it's really wonderful to be together and to be in this shrine room that I know many of you have sat in, and I've sat with some of you here, and this is a holding space. So firstly, to just invite you into this holding space with us, and to invite you into the holding space that is Dharmagiri, that is Mvuleni Mountain, that's really bringing us together. This holding space is what's really bringing us together. This morning, this evening, to be in Sangha and to remember what it is to be in sacred space and to cultivate sacred space, which is, I know, something we all desperately need right now. So it's really precious. And I'm just inviting you to settle within your body right now and just become aware of your posture. Taking a few deeper breaths, connecting with the breath, life force. And connecting with wherever your body meets the ground, whether it's through a chair or whether you're sitting on the ground. Just becoming aware of that sense of grounding, of being grounded. And touching into a feeling of being held. That as we're sitting, lying down, as we're here together, the ground, the earth is holding us up. And that's something that we can release into, rest into. Allowing ourselves to feel that holding of the earth wherever we are. Wherever we are, the energy of the earth, of the land we're on, is available to us. I greet the spirits of this land. I greet all the grandmothers and grandfathers, all the energies that hold Mvuleni Mountain, to the old ones and the old ones. I honor you all, dear ones, and I call you in to be with us in this gathering that is to honor this sacred space, to honor the work that you have done on this land for generations, and to honor us, your children, who continue your visions for peace and healing, your visions of repairing the wounds and repairing what was broken. I greet my ancestors. I greet all the ancestors of all of us in this gathering. I greet all our grandmothers and grandfathers through the lineages to the old ones and old ones. I acknowledge you all, dear ones. I call you in and thank you for being here with us, for witnessing this gathering. Thank you for all the ways in which you hold us, all the ways in which you help us to remember what is sacred and true. I greet the waters. I greet the waters of Mvuleni. I greet all the streams of this region that flow into the Umzimkhulu River. I greet the Indian Ocean. I greet the Pacific and the Atlantic Ocean. I greet all the waters, the streams and rivers, waterfalls and lakes. I greet the waters in our bodies, under the ground and in the sky. I call you in, dear ones, and I honor you. I honor your clarity. I honor your healing. I honor your flow and your nourishment. I call you in to continually hold us and remind us that we are that clarity, we are that flow, we are that healing. I greet the earth spirits. I greet the earth spirits of this land. I greet the earth spirits of the lands of my ancestors. I greet the earth spirits of all those of all the lands who are gathered here, through all the various people throughout the world. I honor you, dear ones. I honor the abundance and the nourishment that you always offer us, that you continually offer us. Even though we forget, even though we turn away, even though we move into narrow, contracted spaces, dear earth, you are there always for us, and you give to us without us needing to ask. May we remember the true nourishment and true abundance that is our birthright. I greet the rocks and the mountain. I greet you, dear Mvuleni Mountain. I greet the mountains of the southern Drakensberg, and I greet the mountains of the Drakensberg and all the mountains, all the rocks through the world, through all the lands that we are on. I honor you, ancient ones who stand and watch over us, regardless of what happens. You are there. You are there to remember our stories. You are there to remind us of what we already know. You are there in the depth of our bones. Dear ones, help us to remember what's truly sacred. Help us to remember that we are what's truly sacred. We honor you tonight, dear Mvuleni Mountain. We honor all the ways in which you've held us as a Sangha over these years, and the ways in which you've held all who have worshipped, who have sought peace on this land before us. And I greet all the wild ones, all the seen and unseen wild ones, the ones that swim and cry and flow, the ones that swim and crawl and fly. I greet the blades of grass and the bushes, the trees. Dear wild ones, help us to remember that we are you, we are nature, that it's possible to flow and dance in the circle of birth, in the cycle of birth and death. Help us to transform what needs transforming, to remember what's really true in our hearts and minds. Help us to be a reflection of you. Help us to be you. And I greet the moon and the stars. I greet the great cosmos, the magic and the mystery. Oh, dear ones, I honor you deeply. As we walk in our little journeys on this earth, may we remember that we are truly infinite as you are. May we remember that we are magic and mystery. Dear ones, hear my prayers. Know that this gathering is one in which is in honor of all of you, of this great circle that we are part of. Nourish us, dear ones. Help us to remember. Help us to come to our true homes. Ashe. Handing over to Kittisaro and Thanissara to guide us in chanting.
Greetings, everyone. It is a celebration, a wonderful honor to be able to express our deep cherishing of having time with this sacred mountain. Thank you, Maya, and Pumla, and Neil, and Maya for your wonderful honoring of the ancient ones, the wise ones, the wild ones, all the manifestation of life that arises and merges back into this deep, primal, sacred presence, which is our true home. We were brought to Dharmagiri 29 years ago, mysteriously, and the tradition, the ancient wisdom tradition that brought us there and gave us the opportunity to practice that way of awakening of the Buddha was a wondrous blessing in our lives. So we would like to begin by honoring the awakened one, honoring the Buddha in the traditional ancient Namo Tassa Bhagavato way, and then to recite the qualities of the triple jewel, the qualities of the refuge, of how when we make the centrality of Buddha, of awakening, of deep listening, important in our lives. Listening to what? Listening to the Dharma, listening to nature as she manifests to us in the sights and sounds and smells and tastes and sensations and thoughts and moments of our existence. That when we listen into what is arising, that's revelatory. And Sangha, this extraordinarily important refuge, support of people of integrity, when good beings, we support one another, remind one another, encourage one another. And the essence of this Sangha refuge is that we always are invited, moment to moment, to befriend what is skillful. I'll chant these qualities of the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, which have been passed down over millennia, as deep protections and guides for living. And then Thanissara will recite the great compassion mantra, which she'll say something about, invoking the power of Avalokiteshvara Kuan Yin, who's been such a guiding, protective, deeply wise and compassionate force in our lives. So, recite.
Just the pages, the chanting booklet are in the chat and the page numbers if you wish to follow along. Otherwise, please listen. Yeah.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble and perfectly enlightened one. Homage to the blessed, noble and perfectly enlightened one. Homage to the blessed, noble and perfectly enlightened one. Itipiso bhagava arahang samma sambuddho vijachalana sampanno sugato lokavidu anuttaro apurisatam masaharati sattha devamanu sanang buddho Bhagavati Savakato Bhagavata Dhammo Sandit Akaliko Ehipasiko Panayiko Pajatang Vetita Boven Yuhiti Supati Pano Bhagavato Savakasanko Ujjupati Panno Bhagavato Savakasanko Nyayapati Panno Bhagavato Savakasanko Samijipati Panno Bhagavato Savakasanko Yatitang Chodari Pulisa Yuganiya Tapulisa Pugala Esa Bhagavato Savakasanko Ahunayo Pahunayo Dakinayo Anjali Kalaneyo Anuttaram Punyaketang Loka Sati.
Thank you, Kittisaro. Thank you so much, Pumla, Maya, for, as Kittisaro said, extraordinarily beautiful welcome to all beings in all realms. So the great compassion mantra, sounding this echoes through those mountains as repeated hundreds of thousands of times over the years. And the mountain would often respond, spirits of the mountain with great crashes of thunder, massive rainstorms, rolling lightning shows across the sky, bringing the elemental power of the Kuan Yin merciful response. So for some of you familiar, others maybe just listening to the mantra, and as was taught by Master Xunhua, from whom we received the transmission of this mantra, for it to sound, sounding it like running water. So imagining a water of compassion, just soothing, calming, healing, bringing the nectar of transformation to your own heart, to the hearts of all beings everywhere, particularly at this time in the world. Namo Kwa Shuyin Butsa Namo Kwa Shuyin Butsa.
Thank you so much, Kittisaro and Thanissara, for another kind of invocation. I can really feel all the energy kind of just alive, very nourished. So anyone that has heard Kittisaro and Thanissara speak about Dharmagiri would have definitely heard them speak about the mountain. And I know Sacred Mountain Sangha is also in honor of this mountain. And there's something there about the way in which the mountain has really showed up for you both. And I know for many who have been here, as just a very important force that's not in the background, that's really in the foreground of your practice, of all our practice. And I know those of us who live here, the three of us sitting here together, we've definitely found this as well, that there's something here, and not just here, but I believe in any natural space that really calls. You know, we've really, in our individual ways, have been finding ways of connecting more with this wild, with the mountain, with the plants, with the nature. And also knowing that Kittisaro and Thanissara, that you come from a tradition that we're all part of, where our elders, our ancestors, have practiced very closely with nature. I mean, we know the Buddha attained enlightenment at the foot of a tree and was said to touch the earth. And we know that your teachers in the Thai forest tradition also practice very closely in the forest with nature. So we'd love to hear from you, to reflect a bit on your own practice through the years, and how you've practiced with and in nature, and what that's meant for you. Because I also know it's not something that's often spoken explicitly about in the teachings. And it would be wonderful to hear just from your own experiences, what it's meant for you, what it's offered you. And you know, not just in respect to Dharmagiri, but of course, you know, being with Mbuleni Mountain and what this place has offered you, but also generally through your life. And also, what medicine does that offer for these times we're in, this practice with nature? So if you could just put some words to that experience. And anyone can start.
Thank you, Maya. Yes, this mountain mysteriously chose us. We didn't choose it. It grabbed us 29 years ago, and I wasn't very well. I'd had a lot of illness when I first arrived on the mountain, and we mysteriously became guardians of this mountain. And it was there's you were mentioning how the Buddha himself was deeply inspired by being in nature, sitting at the foot of the tree. And when the Buddha taught meditation, he taught that the foundation is being with form, being with the body. And I showed up on that mountain not very well, but so on one really practical level, being on that wild mountain was very healing. Just to, it was covered with some sort of quote unquote alien plants that had grown back, pines and gum trees, after there had been a fire, and the previous owners got a little disillusioned with keeping up with it. And so when Thanissara, when we arrived, one of the things we were doing was clearing those trees so that the indigenous grasses could return, and the indigenous, more fire-resistant, slow-growing Budley and Hilaria and other amazing plants could grow. And just walking up that mountain, you can't just walk, you have to watch where you put your feet. You have to, and just the one step at a time, feeling the body, breathing in that pristine mountain air with every step. And even a few steps up the mountain gives one perspective. This, because we get so locked in our boxes, in our minds, in our worries, in our doubts, and somehow being on the land and needing. So you don't step in a hole, you don't step on a snake, you don't, watching where you put your feet, feeling ground. And then this body, which is an earth body, you reunite with the body within this awareness that has to be present so that you don't trip or fall into the ravine, or that I found it so aligning and so healing. And over the mountain beckons to also appreciate its immovability and all the extraordinary weather patterns of this Imvoleni, place of openings, place of rain, incredible thunderstorms, the heat, the luminous liquid colors of the winter as the light changes. Amidst all these changes, this mountain, you couldn't always see it if the mountain had her shawl on, but the unmoving suchness of the mountain just reminding me again and again to not overlook this sacred, unmoving core, which is mountain-like, this deep, deep, deep listening that being on that mountain was inviting us to do. So this being on that mountain helped guide me back first to health, just from walking, from breathing, from listening through all the worries and doubts and fears to this grounding principle, this embodied principle. That's my first thoughts. I don't know, Thanissara, what you would like to reflect on.
Thank you so much, Kittisaro. Yeah, it's so evocative. I'm still digesting what it means to have had this very deep, profound relationship with Umvuleni, the Uhlamba, Drakensberg mountains, the KwaZulu little area we were in, and South Africa at the particular historical moment we were there, just as apartheid fell completely, a political liberation, and in an area where there was still a low-grade war going on, a conflict that was very violent. And the surprising unfolding of having this land transferred into our names and starting this guardianship relationship of land that was never ours, and we never claimed it. But we had a responsibility. And I remember one of the early, I was both completely overwhelmed by this unfolding and also inextricably drawn. And I remember very early on walking on that land and beginning to walk up the first initial little hills into the land and feeling all these presences looking at me, invisible presences, because no one had been abandoned for quite a while in terms of as Kittisaro mentioned, it overgrown. No one was tending anything. There's a burnt down buildings. It was a wreck, really. So no one had disturbed it, therefore. And so I really felt these spirits as I was walking. They didn't feel unbenevolent, but they didn't feel particularly human. But I was very aware of them, and I was looking to see if I could see them, but I could feel them. And in a way, that was an induction into a wilderness. What was a wilderness for us from our human gaze, but perhaps a landscape that had been primarily profoundly untouched by the colonial. There was settling from 100 years or so, but it wasn't just over the other side of the mountain, continued to be completely and profoundly untouched by our modern civilization, but was the territories of the Khoisan peoples, which were present both in the sense of their spirit and their presence there, so profoundly woven into the energetics of the land, but also by their extraordinary paintings on the back of the Umvuleni and in the area that we were, one of them depicting their relationship to the deep spirit living within the mountain, within Umvuleni, that they would work with to, well, we don't really know, but assumed to help moderate and change the weather patterns or somehow whatever. I don't want to assume that as local law goes, but yeah, so there was also a very deep introduction, because we had taught at a local center. The transition of the land came in our name, surprisingly, unexpectedly, from someone that was a former ally and friend of Kittisaro, that was in a position in South Africa that had wealth and influence, and then leaving to go and get all the formal papers for us to be residents, to accept an offer of work there, of promoting and supporting the growth of Dharma. During that time when we came back, a Zulu family had moved in onto the land. And so that started an 8-year relationship with this family that was another kind of initiation and induction into a community that was profoundly impacted by the apartheid regime and were decimated by that in terms of lack of resources, lack of support, and all that went with that. So that was another initiation into working an edge between what had been a predominantly, what had landed up as a deeply economically, culturally, racially divided society that was still in some levels of recovery and reparation. So that was a complex journey. And in tandem with that, we were delivered a beautiful gift from the mountain, which arrived as we were clearing that land from the pines and the gums. And we had built a fire. We were burning them really to try and, we wanted to encourage the indigenous trees and landscapes to come back. So one bonfire, one day we were out there clearing, and I turned around and there was this tiny puppy at my feet that had escaped from a hunting party that was up in the high mountains, headed up by some of our local Zulu family, father of the local Zulu, which we got to know and still have a very deep connection with. But we didn't know that this puppy was from them, and we looked out for who does this puppy belong to. No one claimed the puppy. So that puppy became our little bodhisattva for 15 years, which many of you who've been there have met. The angel who was the mother that lived on the land then at that point, Busisiwe Susibo. She named the dog Jack, and then the local guys named him Numzan, which means something like the boss. So this little puppy definitely kept us, grew up to be this slightly wild precocious Kuan Yin devotee, loving, spiritual, like a guardian. Ajahn Sujito called him Dharmapala, guardian of the Dharma. It was
Vajrapani.
Vajrapani, sorry, Vajrapani. So he had many names, and so we were gifted things, we were brought challenges, we were brought opportunities, and all the time, as Kittisaro said, the mountain at its depth was immovable. But there was movable, deep, profound, still in the midst of so many dramatic and powerful weather formations, but always alive and resonant, and increasingly a presence that we were in communication with. So I feel, this is what's happened in many, many areas of the planet, is that there's been so much interference from humanity out of alignment with this deep relationship with the living, natural, speaking, conscious, sacred web of life, of nature in particular, that we have been removed from this deeper sense of belonging and connection, which is essential for us at this point to reclaim, to reposition humanity as part of this participatory beings within a sacred web of life rather than the dominant force. So for me, the dominant force at Dharmagiri wasn't us as humans and our ideas, it was the power, the extraordinarily wild power of the Ukhrikhlamba, Drakensberg, Mvuleni, and the mountain range that we were in the midst of, that kind of dictated and shaped so much for our life there. And all that unfolded, which was a long, long story we don't have time for, but just to pitch in a little here now.
Thank you so much. And that beautiful reminder that we go through the turbulence of life, so up and down, and that's unavoidable. It's the reality of it. But when we allow ourselves to stay connected to the rhythms of nature and the patterns of nature, we allow ourselves to get to the point where we can also receive back from nature in these beautiful gifts that really nourish us, in the form of all kinds of healing, plant medicine, etc., but also gifts like Jack, the little puppy that was just appeared at our feet. And last year, when I was going through a really tough time and feeling waves of exhaustion, I was primary caregiver for my ill parents. And I remember the one time just getting a deep calling from the earth to just come back to me, and I kept thinking, I don't know what this means. And it was just this message of, come back to me, come back to me. And the one day I did my meditation and my prayers, and then I went outside and I just lay on my back on the earth. And as I did that, there was like, oh, I'd even forgotten to take my shoes off, just to lie on the ground and come back to the Great Mother, the one that gave birth to us, the one that knows our journey, the one that knows the journey of our mothers and our fathers and our foremothers and our forefathers, the one that knows all the medicine that's needed, that brings it forth in plants and trees and rivers and oceans. And I remember just as I lay there was just like this knot that's untangled from the center of my chest, and a sense of relief of like, I've forgotten I'm not alone. I've forgotten that I'm carried by the sacredness of this earth. And it was such a beautiful feeling. And quite often I try and bring that into my practice. It is now part of my meditation practice, is to go lie down on the earth and stargaze. And that's how simple it is to connect back to nature. And that's how little Mother Earth can need to get that connection back. And sometimes we feel disconnected. You think, I don't know where to start, and overwhelmed by climate change and the socioeconomic factors that come with it and all of the stuff. And, Mother Earth is a great mother. All she wants is to hold us in her bosom. All she wants is her children to come back. And when we come back, she offers us medicine so we can keep going and we can keep serving humanity and serving all beings, including her. We need that pause. You know, like you said, when you walk up the mountain, you get the perspective and you pause. When you take one step at a time, you pause. So thank you for that beautiful reminder. Anything to add, Maya?
No, just pass it back to Kittisaro. Would love to hear more of his thoughts.
Oh, could I ask a question?
Yes, please do.
I'm going to zoom out, and then I'm going to bring the microphone a bit closer. Yeah, I'm. I wanted to ask Thanissara and Kittisaro. You were reflecting now about, the role of Mbuleni in your lives and what it's meant for you and for your practice. And I'm wondering now, in your lives at the moment, what role does nature play in your practice? I mean, how do you practice with nature in your lives at the moment? I know your house, if I picture now your house, is surrounded by huge pine trees.
Redwood.
Is it redwood?
I think.
Okay, yes, yeah. And I think you chose that also purposefully, didn't you? I mean, how do you connect with nature in your lives at the moment and in your practice? Thank you.
Very beautiful question, Neil. I think what was so important about Dharmagiri for me was having, as so many of us, had my sense of being deeply contracted around worry and doubts and moods, and so nature was something out there, and in fact, growing up, nature is dirt and you've got to wash your hands so that they're not dirty. It was just so ridiculous. Our source, our bodily source, as well as alienation from our deep spiritual source. And I think at Dharmagiri, and then having this little gift that Thanissara spoke about come down off the mountain, and we used to joke that that little Jack was he was a head of security, but also was head of reception, but he also was a personal trainer. He kept encouraging me out into the mountain. And I think while I was there in walking on the mountain, sitting on the mountain, this tangible, deep inversion of, rather than thinking nature is out there, it was a deep embodied experience of realizing that all of nature, our body, the mountains, the rivers, are all arising and ceasing within this deep listening, this deep sacred nature. And I, so that was powerful, starting to again honor Earth and welcome Earth, and because the deep listening to the Earth body, because thoughts we tend to get scattered and led in this track and that track. When one listens to the resonance of Earth, which is steadier, it's the element of our sense of self the changes are most slow. As we listen into Earth, to the bodily resonance, the mind can steady itself and then directly appreciate the vibratory, ephemeral nature of Earth, and realizing that Earth, this body, this presence is all vibrating within this listening. And so while we were praying and practicing and beginning again and relaxing in the midst of challenge after challenge that happened on that land at that critical time, as Thanissara eloquently laid out, of this transition in South Africa. You know, coming back to steadiness, coming back to listening, coming back to appreciating again that the body and the earth and the mountains are all within this one mind, helped us really tangibly experience how it's all interrelated. Like when we would do ceremonies together on the land, the mountain would respond. Just as when if we are caught up in worry and do a prayer, and to honor the sacred, there can be a deep relaxation, and there would be a wave of relief through the body mind. Somehow doing this collective prayer and honoring of Kuan Yin and the elemental forces and all the interrelated aspects of this sacred nature, there would be an immediate response of the atmosphere, of the mountain, of the storms, of the light, of the rainbows, of the tangible sense of how it was to be on this earth. So even though, like right now, my studies, I can't be out in nature that much. I'm doing studies. Still, that insight from the mountain was deeply changing of how I began, rather than seeing nature as out there somewhere else, is realizing that every breath we're honoring nature, every heartbeat we're honoring nature, every moment as we relax we see nature. So I would say Dharmagiri was more a turning point for my relationship with nature, and I'm still gradually dissolving the way in which I've dishonored nature. I like to say different traditions call nature Mother Nature. Other people might not use it that way, but for me, when this body belongs to nature and then we bow, we're not only putting our head to earth, but then we're bowing into the deepest dimension of nature, which is this deep listening, this deep sacred aware ground of being, which is and so that again and again returning myself to the nature of things, the whole significant transformative power of that came from that mountain. Was really clarified in my time on the mountain. Do you have some thoughts about that, Thanissara?
Yes. Thank you so much, Kittisaro. You know, I wasn't really schooled and conditioned within a worldview that understood that we are nature. It was a very profoundly separative sense of a divorce from nature. And so the unlearning of that is an ongoing process, because it's so historical. It's centuries historically, you know, there's so much deeply wired in conditioning around that worldview, and particularly prevalent in colonizer countries, which I grew up within. Although my father's from Ireland, my mother was from England, so there's always been a relationship between colonized and colonizer dynamic in that for me, but they were still in the Christian metaphor. So growing up, I was both, my grandmothers wanted us to be baptized in both Catholic and Protestant to keep everyone happy, to go to both Protestant school and Catholic catechism, and so on and so on. But my earliest memories, some of my earliest memories outside of that conditioning and metaphor that was prevalent, and there are not very many alternatives when I was very young, I remember going into the woods local to us. A few memories, like very, very young when we grew up in London, which is a city. So you're automatically already not connected with a sense of, like in Dharmagiri, just to go from the home to the kitchen, you had to walk across land, elements, there's not this sense of the Northern Hemisphere, the concrete buildings, the way they're designed, the way the concrete everywhere. There's this sense of alienation. And we're always looking at TV boxes, screens, computer screens, and so on. So there's this, the body itself is divorced from its context of actually being a nature body. But even in spite of that, like very early, I remember there was a canal that we used to, as kids, play by in London. And I remember this feeling for the water. I remember feeling drawn to the water, and even though it wasn't a fresh running river, there was still this sense of mystery and being drawn. It was a very young age. And then when we moved and we had woods near us, and I remember going into the woods and creating these like nature shrines and sort of getting berries and leaves and barks and making a shrine. And I think those were an earlier memory that came through, an earlier allegiance. So for me, really, it's been a profound unlearning, and definitely Dharmagiri, well, definitely even before that, the movement into the meditative life took me to places, centers, monasteries that were deeply embedded in natural environments. And then as a nun, we would walk on alms round and often take routes that went through woods, and this is UK, woods and by streams and by, so there was a definite, and long walks, we did for weeks walks through the countryside. So but those were more cultivated parts of nature, which was still very beautiful and connected. But it wasn't until the wilderness and the sort of the deep embodied response in my body to that wilderness, which was a mixture of awe, respect, sometimes fear, is so daunting, being drawn, that some of that conditioning started to package. But I think I also needed to be really inducted, like listening to people like Baba Mandasa Kundemwa, who's been an elder, who's a Mandoro from Zimbabwe, that was a guide and an elder for us. The way he would talk. The first time I met him at a conference in Botswana, which some of you came to, I see here now with us. It was about quite a few years ago on Ubuntu. And to hear him, the person that I've the most, talks directly about nature as a living spirit, and that we are that spirit too. So just hearing different ways of the help, the deconditioning within me to dissolve that veil between us and nature, particularly when we've been grown up in the modern world. So, and I feel that I've plunged more and more deeply into the dissolving of that veil to the point that I really feel that one of the earliest translations of Dharma is actually nature. That I don't feel any difference really between nature and Dharma. They're one and the same, the deep living intelligence of Gaia, the Gaian cosmology, which includes that beautiful way Maya opened, that invocation includes everything that was mentioned, that we're all part of this Gaian cosmology of interconnecting sacredness that is speaking, alive, conscious. There's no part of it we're not in relationship with. So this, in a way, is a very profound deconstruction again of the dominant place humans have put themselves into, often through these sort of Axle Age arising, 2.5 longer thousands of years ago, the patriarchal religious structures that deliberately divorced us or cut off from that sense of living spirit, living intelligence. And I feel in the larger picture, it is this journey of reclamation of this depth of the sacred in the way that we are deeply listening to this profound intelligence of the spirit of nature is part of the journey for our collective salvation, really. We have to, as a Baba Mandaza puts it more simply, we have to really, understand who's really in control here. We have to understand what our roots truly are and return to them, so that we return to a living, respectful relationship, as is been held by many indigenous peoples, in spite of the huge impacts of the colonial project on them for centuries and centuries, and are still holding those threads. So for when we all, in our deepest roots, are emergent from the same indigenous world that was deeply interwoven with the natural forces. So yeah, it's a process for sure. And definitely Umvuleni Bamboo Mountain was a huge initiator in this deconstruction of the sensuality of how I'd understood us to be as humans, erroneous sensuality, from my own conditioning and upbringing.
Thank you both so much. There's something really helpful and encouraging about hearing you both talk about this process of unlearning, as you put it, Thanissara or Kittisaro, like learning to listen and move from that separation into interconnection. I mean, I find it very helpful and encouraging because I resonate. It's been my journey, and I think for many of us, and it really helps to hear that, oh, we're all on this journey, to unlearn. The poet Wendell Berry has this line that I love, that there are no unsacred places, there are only desecrated places. And that's such a reminder for me, Thanissara, when you spoke about these, making these nature shrines as a kid, like there's something in you calling to that, like there's something in us that already knows, and yeah, so this idea of unlearning I find very helpful. So I have about 1 million more questions, but we are going to have a break now, a body break for just 5 minutes. So we'll come back at 10 past, maybe 4 minutes now. And then we'll hand over to Sisonke, who will guide us in a sound journey. And after that, there will be time for questions and answers.
Thank you, Maya. And before we have a break, I am aware, just to the sort of practical organizational side of things, that this is also a fundraiser. So Dharmagiri can actually sustain itself, and we know what that takes. So before we break, and sometimes people sometimes don't come back, I do hope you'll come back, because I think we've got this incredibly special offering from Sisonke that I would love for us all to really honor. If you could please put the link in the chat for the Dharmagiri, people can, any offering that you can make is actually really, really makes a difference. With very little benefactor or support for sustaining, and that's always been needed. And it's such a special, really unique place and team. So whatever can be offered, deep gratitude. It really means a lot. Thank you so much.
And when you support a sanctuary like this, when we support a sanctuary like this, then we are a part of all of the countless transformations of consciousness of anyone who visits. We're helping support the opportunity for people to unlearn this separation from nature, which is destroying ourselves in the world. So I just would like to echo what Thanissara said, to really, this is a very precious thing to help sustain.
Yeah, thank you for that reminder. This is a fundraiser. Yeah, we got into the joy of being together, and also to add that a lot of the funds that we receive from the fundraising, of course, are for the livelihood of keeping the doors open, and for our scholarship program. We have an initiative where we are trying to run a few youth, young adult, fully sponsored young adult retreats where we've started with just the local community and Durban, which is about a few hours away. And we want to be able to expand it to bring people who otherwise would obviously not be able to afford access to these teachings, the joy of firstly being in this great mountain and the teachings that we can provide for them. And we're really focused on also including teachers that speak Zulu so that it's fully accessible to everyone. And obviously that needs a bit of funding as well, so we can bring facilitators and teachers as well in. So we do appreciate all funds that come our way.
Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, okay, body break 5 minutes from whatever the time is now.
Yeah. You stay on a second, please. Thank you. Can you put Gavin, please?
Yeah.
Okay. Welcome back, everybody. And now that we had that beautiful discussion with TNK, we're going to move on to the second half of our session, where we'll start with Sisonke, and then we'll move on, as Maya said. After that, we'll move on to a bit of an open Q&A where we can all ask questions from all three of these magical people that are guiding us today. So Sisonke is a incredibly multifaceted being. He's a healer, he does breath work, he does facilitation,
And an artist.
And yeah, a musical artist. He is a traveling artist. He just came back from the ES now doing some healing music projects that side, and we met him through a mutual friend, and we feel very honored to have him here, to have him bless us with the incredible powers of sound vibration and the healing powers of sound vibration. I won't go on too long because we want to spend more time enjoying his beautiful gift. So over to you, Sisonke.
Tamaku. Thank you so much for inviting us into this really beautiful and powerful space. Thank you to the team at Dharmagiri for creating this space. Truly grateful. Thank you as well to the elders for sharing their experiences and the lessons that they have learned through the course of their journey, moving with the land and with the heart and with the breath. We are Sisonke. Our name in isiXhosa means we are together. And when we accepted our call from our ancestors to become what is known as Igqirha, we were given the name Thanissara, meaning the one who brings light. And so we find ourselves in this journey of returning to oneness, and also that of embracing the light that each one of us comes bringing into the planet. And so we'd like to express our gratitude to each and every single person who's here now. Thank you so much for being in the world. Thank you for being who you are, exactly who you are and how you are in this time. Your light is integral to how this reality unfolds. We are of the Thembu Nation, Omadiba Oyemyem Onqolomsilo Vela Bempenselo Zondo Zintshaba Zingazumenza Nto. Our mothers of the Zulu Nation, Kwangcobo Ontonto Ngothekela. Our grandmother is uMarhatebe Umthimkhulu Ndlebe Ntle Zombini. And our other grandmother is uMasukudu Mfazi Ubelelinye Nconcosela Phesheya Kumlanjana. And so it is in this way that we invite our ancestors, those who live in us, through us, to be with us in this moment as we gather ourselves, all of ourselves, orbiting through multiple timelines to intersect in this present moment. And we gently ask that this time and this experience becomes exactly what you need. Tamaku. So I would like to ask you to sit comfortably if you aren't already. If you can take your right hand and put it on your heart, right hand on the heart. And if you're able to, your left hand on your tummy. you can just take a couple of gentle breaths to return to the body. As you're breathing in, your tummy expands, and as you gently breathe out, your tummy deflates. Allow the breath to move in whatever pace it feels it needs to move in this moment. With your next breath, feel a magnetic cord emanating from the universe and penetrating through your crown and meeting your hand at the heart. And with your next breath, feel the same electromagnetic cord moving from the depths of the earth, penetrating through the soles of your feet, moving up your body, and meeting your hand at your heart. How is your breath sitting in your body? Simply allow yourself to be aware of your beating heart and the breath as it moves in and out of your body. Our bodies are the most advanced technological system in this planet. And our breath is the operating system. It is our breath that wills us to be alive. And it is also our breath that wills us to be dead. And so between each breath, each beat of the heart, we cycle between death and rebirth. When we first come here into this planet, through these bodies, the one thing we inherit is the breath. And also, when we are ready to leave, it is our breath that will leave the physical body. And so each of us, through each breath, we contribute to how reality flows. Each of us, through our breath, has the power of creation. And so it is that we know that when the breath transforms into sound, we receive what we know as ilizwi, or the voice. And that it is through the voice that we are able to speak things into reality. It is through the breath transforming into sound that we are able to affect the atoms that make up the structure and fabric of reality and will things to come into this reality. And so when we are guided by our breath and we learn to speak from our heart, we're able to create things of beauty, peace, and harmony. The ancients know that even before languages, the first sounds that we made, our earliest ancestors, they used vibration as a language, as a tool for communication, not only just amongst themselves, but with the whole energy grid of nature and creation, that the body itself is a holder of frequency. It is a holder of sound. And so each of us come into this planet carrying a unique song. And it is for us to sing that song. And when we sing this song, we contribute to the cosmic song. Now I would like to invite you to join us in transforming our breath into sound. We'll play a vibration, and where you are, as comfortable as you feel, allow yourself to contribute to the sound through chanting, through toning, through simply allowing your breath to transform into whatever sound comes to you. Whenever you might feel ready, once we introduce the next sounds, allow yourself to to vibrate as the universe intended. As you are still connected with your breath, tuning into your beating heart, feeling its pulsations and its rhythms, feeling the blood as it moves through your whole body. Feeling this beauty of life and of presence. Would like to invite you to return to seed form. To return to that point where infinite, the space where we carry all our potential in a compressed form. And so as you return into seed form, we also want you to remember that the seed is already its highest manifestation. And so, what is the seed that is you growing into? What is this unique seed that is your being and your consciousness? What is it seeding into this reality? What does it look like? What does it feel like once this seed has grown into this world? And so, because every seed needs nourishment, needs all the elements, the beating rays of the sun, the darkness of the earth, also the softness of water, at times the whiplash of the wind. How do you grow through these challenges? What is the seed that is you look like once it has reached its highest manifestation in this time? We have all been called here in this moment to be exactly who we are, to share our uniqueness. It is the uniqueness of our being that is the medicine. It is the songs that we carry inside of our hearts that we need, that our communities need. Songs that we must sing to the earth to assist in her healing and ascension. Fukani banguma, 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 sipilise banguma, fukani banguma, fukani banguma, sipilise banguma. Fukani banguma, sipilise banguma, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, Fukani banguma, Fukani banguma, Fukani banguma, Fukani banguma, Fukani banguma, Fukani banguma, Thank you so much for your openness. Thank you so much for opening your heart. Thank you so much for being yourself in this time. We truly are so beautiful. Thank you for growing and nurturing this beautiful seed that you are. May many more sprout from your roots. many more fruits and offsprings germinate from your labors of love in this time. Thank you once again for having us. Marco.
Amakakaka, siyabonga, siyabonga. Yeah.
Siyabonga. Thank you for this beautiful, supremely beautiful experience, Sisonke, for drawing us into timeless space that's ancient and brand new and fresh in this moment right now. I feel I really was that seed in the ground, and then felt myself growing and like a plant in the sun and rain, dancing. Yeah, thank you for sharing your gifts with us for this offering. So we have about 10 minutes of open space for sharing, questions, and also just encouraging everyone to stay with whatever feeling was invoked for you. We don't have to rush. Yeah, just being with whatever's in your space right now. And we have this open space together. For anyone who'd like to share, please put up your hand, I guess your Zoom hand. I think, or physical hand, I think we can try and spot you.
Sisonke is one of the incredible facilitators we're hoping to bring for our young adults, fully sponsored retreats. So donations will help to make that magic come alive for young people that are in need of healing as much as we all are.
Kittisaro raised his hand.
Oh, wonderful, Sisonke, for inducting us into that sacred realm and inviting us to carry it on the breath, make a sound so that we mingle our unique resonance with the timeless one. I'm interested if you could share with us how you heard the calling into this way of being. If you would share something about how it was you knew you were called. How did you get guided into this beautiful manifestation which you are?
Thank you so much for your words. Yeah, we can't think of it without getting emotional. Truly, we feel it has been one of the most life-changing things about our journey. But very briefly, we could say that since we were a child, we've always felt out of place. We've always felt as though we don't quite belong. And because of that, we try to fit in, we try to assimilate, we try to be like how others are so that we can get a sense of belonging. But we can say really the turning point was in 2012, which we felt was a really critical time, in that at this time we were deeply immersed in the study of information technology, software, how those kinds of things come together. But at the same time, it felt as though there was a grander source that was calling us. There was a higher intelligence that was putting our awareness into the cosmic grid and how nature functions beyond the zeros and the ones and the computations of artificial intelligence and this very narrow way that now humanity is headed towards. And so this started with a lot of internal upheavals where we had to first do a lot of unlearning, undoing, and also tending to some of the pains that we had while we were growing up as a child. And so having worked on that past hurt and grief and pain, we began a way of allowing ourselves to listen more to our heart and really live according to how our heart wants us to be in this time, beyond fitting in whatever social fabric, but really allowing myself to deeply listen to my heart and my being and what I came here to do in this time. And so from 2012, we started this journey of uncovering, of listening, of feeling, until we started receiving a lot of dreams from our ancestors, and a lot of things started happening in the physical world as well, where this brought attention to our elders that once one is undergoing these particular signs, then it means that there's something that needs to be paid attention to, especially when it pertains to the ancestral plane and the spiritual realm. And so in 2018, that is when we began our initiation into Ubugqirha. And we feel it is this time that truly we began to feel who and what we are. And we're still learning as to who we are and therefore how to be here in this time. And at present, our guides have guided us towards the breath as one of the most primary energies and also healing tools that literally runs consciousness that we must pay attention to. And also then how through the breath, as it moves through the body, it causes vibrations, and how those vibrations can be transformed into sound. And so our quest then is to try to use traditional forms of healing that we've learned have to do with a lot of presence and intention and the purity of the heart, and also interface with what we call indigenous sound technologies, also which work with the organic grid of nature, because the instruments that we're making, they are trunks of trees, they are calabashes, they are materials that are harvested from the earth. And so then what does it look like and feel like when we interface with some of these materials to draw out that which is already living internally? And so very briefly, we can say that is how we got to be here now. Kamaku.
Yes, I love hearing about the connection to breath, because the mindfulness of the breath was the meditation that the Buddha did under the tree of awakening, and his rich teachings around the revelatory healing, revelatory unifying impact of deeply listening to the breath, and is very important in the tradition that brought us to the mountains. So I'm so interested to hear you share your journey. Thank you, Sisonke.
Yes, Siyabonga, Sisonke, Siyabonga Kuku, thank you so much. I feel deeply heartened to meet you. I feel my spirit rejoicing so profoundly in your presence and words and your offerings. And I feel so grateful that you are connecting with Dharmagiri, with Mbuleni, with a wonderful team. And there are for sure unfoldings ahead of mutual support. And not only for a sense of deep gratitude for your presence for South Africa, but for the world at this time. And I really hear you're so on message for what we need, and expressing that through your healing, your offerings. I most sincerely, both of us, I know Kittisaro and I, wish you all blessings, all protections for your work going forward. And I feel enriched. Anytime I will meet you and be in your presence, not only I, but we will all be deeply enriched. Siyabonga, Siyabonga, Siyabonga. Stay well, go well, and we will meet at some point. We will meet, and that will be a great joy. In person, we're meeting now. I feel we're in meeting. We will meet in body. That will be a great joy. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thokoza mntomkhulu. Kamaku.
think we have time just maybe for one more question. If anyone would like to, it doesn't even have to be a question. You can share, comment.
Love to hear any last reflections you have, Maya, Pumla, Neil, from the mountain. If no one else has anything to offer to say.
Yeah.
I'm just feeling very grateful to feel again the magic of the space and the magic of calling in the sacred and being in an intentional space to call in what's sacred and true and timeless, and how we can never anticipate how it's going to unfold, but something really beautiful is just sitting with me right now, and I'm really grateful to be part of this. And to, speaking of Dana, I was reflecting recently on how, Dana is so much part of the fabric of Dharmagiri, and how much generosity Kittisaro and Thanissara started the space with, because of course they come from a tradition of Dana that Dana is woven into, and how moving that is. About 4 years ago, I was offered, I came on a 1-month retreat on a Dana basis, and a time when I wouldn't have been able to afford it, and that was life-changing, that spending a month here in practice. And it's that experience that somehow, is a big part of why I'm here. So it's also beautiful to experience that, the kind of the wheel, and how Dana is so much part of turning this wheel. So the generosity of the space, the generosity of the offerings tonight, of offering ourselves truly to each other, is just very humbling. So in gratitude to each of you for showing up and sharing this time with us, and for all the ways in which you offer to Dharmagiri and to this practice, and to this work, to this joy. It really nourishes and feeds us all, and feeds this collective, and feeds this space. So yeah, on behalf of everyone involved in Dharmagiri, well, including all of you, deep gratitude and deep bows. Yeah.
I love the word reclaim that showed up. I think it was Thanissara who was speaking. He just spoke about reclaiming our relationship with nature, unlearning and deconstructing everything we've been colonized to believe and feel and think and not feel. And in that process, reclaiming the truth, which is that we are nature. Nature is not something outside of us that we decide to connect to or not to connect to, but that we are nature, and nature is us. And when Sisonke invited us to allow the breath to become sound, it felt like another layer of reclaiming one's vibration and one's voice and one's freedom to express one's truth and one's gifts in a way. And that is the beauty of working with nature for me, is this ability to reclaim deeply things that have no words, that have no language, that have no definition, but have intense purpose and are deeply needed in this time where we are, where there's so much suffering. and so much encouragement to bypass and look away from the suffering of ourselves and of others. And so thank you for reminding us that we can reclaim it, even though we've been taught to not look at it and to think of it as something as other, that it is us. We are the pulse of life. We are the force, the life force energy that keeps rebirthing and keeps bringing life in. Thank you.
We can please hand over to Kittisaro or Thanissara to close us off with a sharing of blessings.
Kittisaro, and well, before you go, I might express my thanks and gratitude to everyone here and all that attended and all that will listen in. And I know many of you here have spent, like Sumeda, spent a year as a manager at Dharmagiri, had many wonderful managers, everyone that supported. I know many of you here that I see have been involved for many, many years, have generously contributed through dana offerings, have visited, have done month retreats, have been deeply connected either directly from South Africa or from overseas. And to all of you and to the team, this wonderful team, it's not an easy place it's a complex dynamic to navigate. The appearance and the maintenance and sustaining of a sanctuary in where it's placed, in a very powerful but not easy geography and cultural setting and historical setting, and the way that you have picked up the threads and continue to weave and expand and grow. It's such a heartfelt, deep sense of joy and happiness for Kittisaro and I. So thank you so much. Sorry, that was a bit longer than I meant it to be. Kittisaro, I hand you for sharing of blessings.
Well, beautifully said, Thanissara. Let's just savor for a moment the extraordinary blessings that of being awake, of being alive, of beginning to open our hearts to this mysterious gift of life, and the extraordinary blessings that allow this sanctuary, allowed us to be able to, the gifts that allowed us to be able to be on this ancient Imvuleni in the Ukahlamba, Drakensberg Mountains, to be able to be there and reclamation of the sacred, this relinquishment of all these distorted views, all the countless moments of patience and generosity that helped this center come to be, that helped us come to be where we are. And wherever we are all supported. We are all sitting on the slopes of the sacred mountain. And the moments of listening, the moments of patience, the moments of connecting to this life-giving revelatory breath that Sisonke inducted us into, and listening into the vibrations that are unique to our calling on this planet, to this deep, using our body, our special gifts, our special talents to make a sound that is needed, a sound of reverence, a sound of respect, a sound of humility, a sound of mending the chasms of the wounds of confusion and of violence and of insatiable greed. May these moments of perspective, moments of listening, moments of appreciating our extraordinary good fortune to be able to meet these ancient wisdom traditions of the Buddha and the great indigenous wisdom traditions of Earth. May we receive that into our body and mind, share it with each other, and with a gift, finishing with a gift, that sound, notice sound emanates in all direction. When we make a sound, it's universal. That sound resonates outward, up, down, below, and all around. So may we make a sound of wishing and sharing. May the blessings of our lives truly be shared with all beings, be shared with turning us away from this destructive behavior on this earth to honor our deep sacred mother, honor the ancestors, to honor the noble purpose for which we have been born. May the blessings emanate outward, soften all hardened hearts that are lost in cycles of violence and domination and oppression. May these blessings help wake beings up to this beautiful, unspeakable miracle of being awake, alive, breathing, part of Mother Nature. May this prayer be carried on Kuan Yin Avalokiteshvara's heart, 6-syllable heart mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum, honoring the totality of nature and this jewel of awareness within which the 1,000-petaled manifestation of life appears, dissolves, and merges back into the timeless silence. Hum, so be it. May the wise and compassionate ones allow our prayer truly to help us all wake up. Om Mani Padme Hum. 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 Om Mani Padme Hum.
Thank you so much, everyone, for just being here. And a special shout out to our directors, like still Moira and Nalita, there they are, for all the support they continue to give us, and all of you.
And
all
to
of
Sue,
you.
our
there's
fairy
Sue.
godmother.
And all those that are part of the family of Dharmagiri in big and small ways, that keep the spirit of the space alive. Thank you so much, everyone.
Blessings, go with love.